What's going on, everyone? It's Dalton Anderson with Team BC, EXP Realty. Today I'm with my buddy and gym leader over here,
Sure.
Mr. Nick Mavrick. We're at Easton, Littleton right now. Just wanted to do a quick video today and kind of go over, jiu-jitsu, kind of my journey with it. And, Nick here is our general manager at the Littleton location. So I just wanted to hop on here, introduce him and kind of give you guys a little background on what jiu-jitsu is. So Mr. Nick Mavrick over here, why don't you go ahead and kind of explain, what we do here at Easton Littleton.
I mean, what we do here is we create an excellent community. Is mainly what we do here. The product here is Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, which is a martial art that's a grappling style that is derived from judo, which obviously comes from Japan. So hence Brazilian followed by jiu-jitsu, which is obviously not a Portuguese term. So we train kids and adults at this location. We only do grappling here. Like I said, jiu-jitsu is a grappling style. So, to the untrained eye, I suppose, it would look mostly just like wrestling. But there is a significant stand-up portion of it that does come from judo, which includes takedowns with the legs, throws, hip throws, trips and sweeps, and sacrifice throws, and then the occasional guard pull, which the older you get, the more appealing the guard pull gets. So the main thing, though, that we're doing here, honestly, is just trying to help people be able to apply the lessons that they learn here in terms of accepting and enduring pressure and uncomfortable situations, and then take that outside into their real lives, where they, I think, become, in general, better people. At least I definitely became a better person, through martial arts.
Definitely, for sure. And how did you kind of get started with the whole jiu-jitsu, and what's kind of your background in martial arts?
I started martial arts about, I would guess now, 24 years ago, in a style called Hapkido, which is a Korean style, not to be confused with Aikido. Pardon me, Aikido people. Hapkido is very much like Japanese jiu-jitsu. It's pretty brutal, honestly. It's pretty bone breaky and joint manipulating. It does have a lot of judo style throws and stuff, so there is some grappling on the feet, not very much on the ground, a little bit. You'll see a little bit of stuff in Hapkido that you're like, yeah, I know, I recognize that. And I did that for several years. I did that in Chicago. I became a brown belt with a group there that I really loved. And then when we moved out here about 18 years ago, there wasn't that, there was some whispers of it and some shadows of it, and I poked around and I found something that was not what I was looking for, and the Easton people opened a gym at 3rd and Broadway in Denver, which was very much the same size as the location here in Littleton, and my wife was working across the street from there at a salon. And so I kept seeing it and driving past it, and finally one night I was like, hey, let's go just look in the windows. And I went, and they were doing a no-gi day, so sometimes we train in a gi and sometimes we train in, back then it was basically shorts and a t-shirt. And I looked in, and there was 3 guys in shorts and t-shirts, basketball shorts and t-shirts, and I was like, what is that? I recognized martial arts as a thing where you wore the outfit, you barked at each other, and you drop and give me 50 kind of stuff. And so that looked real too casual for me, and I was like, nah, not for me. And my wife continued to work at that salon, and one day we drove by and the windows were all steamed up, and I was like, okay, I recognize that. And I went and I looked again, and now they're all wearing gis, and they were all lined up, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is an actual martial art. And I knew of the UFC, and I knew of the Gracie family at that point, and I remember watching the first couple UFCs and seeing Royce Gracie win those fights, and I was like, I can't even tell what he's doing, this doesn't look cool at all.
Yeah.
I was into it because of, Sunday Kung Fu Theater and Bruce Lee when I was a kid, so Hapkido also has some pretty beautiful acrobatic style stuff that comes from a style called Hwarang-do, which is a much, much older style. And that was the stuff that I was into when I was young and athletic, and when I could jump and spin around and do cool kicks and shit. That's stuff.
You're
Sorry. But the older you get, the less capable you are of that kind of stuff. And realistically, fights I had worked in some fairly dangerous bars in Chicago, and I continued to work in bars for many years after I got to Denver. And what I learned from that was that beautifully executed butterfly kicks often elicited a laugh from the crowd, didn't do a whole lot of damage.
Yeah.
And those fights generally ended up on the ground with people just squirming around in puddles of beer and neither person knowing what to do. And so if you know what to do on the ground when you get there and you know how to manipulate people's bodies while they're on top of you or even underneath you, more likely than not, you're going to win that altercation. So I guess that's what appealed to me about it. And I did an intro, and before the thing was even done, I was like, let's just sign up now.
Yeah.
I'll just sign up. Give me the gi, give me the thing. I'll just, whatever you want, take all my money, please. And here we are 15 years later.
So I've been doing jiu-jitsu for about 3 years now. And, you know, a lot of the misconception that people see, especially from other martial arts, is how quickly, you know, someone can go from a white belt to a black belt in something like karate or taekwondo. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how long it actually took you from when you started jiu-jitsu as a brand new white belt to, you know, getting your black belt?
So I started in, I think, September of 2007. And I got relatively quickly to my blue belt. Blue belt's like the first big step. And that took me almost 2 years. And then we started having babies, and we had some expensive medical stuff with our oldest daughter, so I couldn't really afford both. So
yeah. I
stepped away for a while, for about, I would say it was about a year and 10 months I was away.
Typical blue belt.
Typical blue belt disappeared. And then I came back, and I was not good. I was not a blue belt. I was like for sure a white belt again. But they were like, you earned that blue belt, go line up with the blue belts. And so I was mortified, you know, like I felt like I was giving Easton blue belts a bad name, and there were white belts on the other end of the line that were like, that dude's a blue belt, you know? So it was like starting over from scratch. And then I was actually a blue belt for several years, you know, including when I first got it, and that time that I took off was probably 7 calendar years as a blue belt. And I just really wasn't all that committed to it then. You know, I was working nights still, and you know, the trappings that come with working nights kind of, you know, my commitment was not great all the time. Sometimes I was really committed for like 5 months straight, just constant training, and then I'd be gone for 2-3 months. So, you know, if you really focus, you can get a black belt in 10 years, you know, but it's unlike styles where children can get black belts. We don't have kata or forms or hyungs. We do have some sort of choreographed series that we follow to drill, but we don't really spend any time on like these sort of categorized, stylized movements that help you move from one belt to the other. You know, we only have a few belts. We have fewer belts than Japanese and Korean styles of martial arts and Chinese styles and so forth. So those steps mean more, and they're harder to get to. Honestly, you know, you could be like me, a blue belt for 7 years. Most people are not blue belts for 7 years, and then you can pass relatively quickly through purple and brown belt. You know, a couple years each if you're really committed. But this is the only, or one of the only styles of martial arts that's really truly pressure tested on a daily basis. You know, like once you get to a certain level, most of your classes and training include at least a portion of full speed sparring, you know, and sparring is safe in this style because we're not punching each other in the face and we're not kicking each other's legs out from under, you know.
Right.
So we can, you know, it's mostly squeezing and manipulating joints and, you know, like maintaining dominant positions and stuff. So there's a lot less danger of physical damage associated with that. So you know what it feels like when somebody is fully resisting you, trying to manipulate their, you know, their body to their disadvantage. And so if you know that what you do doesn't work, you know, it's back to the drawing board every day. So back to the drawing board every day means that you're spending a lot of time at each level, you know, and there are literally thousands of techniques, but it's not like, you know, blue belt, you have to know these 50 techniques, show them, you know. You show by showing up, you know, you show by showing up and grinding it out and leaving with bruises and you know, sometimes you leave and you cry in the car, and sometimes you leave and you're like, why on earth do I do this to myself, and am I ever going to be good at this, you know? So it does take roughly a decade, to get to black belt. It took me longer because I'm not gifted and because I spent some time away, But
Yeah.
A gifted athlete can get to black belt, maybe even 8 or 9 years, But I would say average is probably 10 or 11 years.
Cool. So we're gonna wrap this up real quick, but one last thing that I wanted to mention is one of the things or reasons that I stuck with Easton for so long is just that sense of community.
Yes.
And the fact that, we are a very inclusive school where we want people who may be a little timid or a little shy or scared to come try us out because this is a, safe environment for us to do so.
Correct. That's very important.
So real quick, real fast, what would you say to someone who may be kind of on the fence, who wants to try it out, but just maybe a little on the fence?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu's for everyone, I would say. You get to a certain point, like maybe starting at 75 years old isn't a great idea, but at 50, for sure, there's something to be had out of this besides black belts. Like I forget what the number is, but like it's an obscenely low percentage of people who start this make it to their black belt.
Yeah.
But 100% of people get something out of it. Something. Nobody leaves a jiu-jitsu class and says, "I wish I hadn't done that." Like. Like sometimes you leave and you're like, why do I do this to myself? But you are a better person for doing it. I can't say that's across the board. I wish I could, but it will give you so much more than just like, better looking muscles and the sense that you can beat up somebody in a parking lot if they start a fight with you. There's so much more to it than that, and the relationships that you form when you're under duress, I would never compare it to a military unit or something like that. I would never minimize that experience. But when you do something that's extremely hard and painful sometimes and emotionally difficult with a group of people going through the same thing, you form bonds with those people that are very difficult to explain to outsiders, and very difficult even to explain maybe to your spouse or your siblings or like your friends at work. It's impossible to articulate what kinds of relationships that you form there, but I couldn't give those up. I couldn't live without those types of relationships, and I feel blessed and I feel honored to be able to facilitate those types of relationships and create an environment where people can make those types of connections with people. So if there was anything that I could say, it's like if you really want to connect on a deep level with people in a way that you can't possibly understand before you do it, this is a good way to do that.
Cool. Well, I got to wrap this up. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man.
We are Easton Training Center here in Littleton. We do have, 8 or 9 locations throughout the Denver metro area, so feel free to check us out.